Hey all, it's Juan here. Today I'm taking a look at the new-ish Moondrop MIAD 01 smartphone. This is a new product category for Moondrop, who is traditionally known for these wired in-ear style monitors and over-ear headphones and even some wireless devices for the Southeast Asia region, and with a lot of penetration in recent years in North America. But it seems like they're trying to look for some new markets to dip toes into and scrape some revenue out of. And one of those is the smartphone business. This is a completely new category for Moondrop. It's the first for a real audio company. But essentially, this is a $200-300 Chinese smartphone with a Moondrop Cirrus Logic DAC amp in it. So, giving a quick look around the device. Here it is, the audio hardware output. This is a 4.4mm and a 3.5 out. Both of them work simultaneously with no noticeable degradation in audio quality. Down here we have the two cameras. This is a 64-megapixel Sony shooter with a 1/1.7, I believe, type sensor, and then a tiny, really crappy 8-megapixel ultra-wide. These are 24mm and I believe around 15mm respectively. In terms of focal length. And here it is, the logo, Moondrop Internet Audio Device. We'll get back to that. And then just looking around the device, this is actually really classy hardware. It's using a fully polycarbonate design. It's just held together with snaps, so you can actually just pry it apart with some basic tools. There's no real tooling needed to get in here and swap the case, which I've actually had to do once already because it got scuffed up. The cases are quite cheap as well. These are only around $30-40 from Shenzhen Audio if you need a new one, which is kind of important as they're not selling any kind of protected hardware for this phone. Down at the bottom is a classic USB-C input for charging. There's around 33-watt charging. Reasonably fast for the 5,000 mAh battery, which, by the way, gets pretty solid battery life. I was able to get all a battery out of it, but we'll get back to that later. Here is the bottom loudspeaker and the SIM card and micro SD card tray, which can take it up to 1 terabyte. However, beware, I've heard of issues regarding corrupting micro SD cards, which haven't already been formatted for the phone, so best to use a fresh one. Anyways, down here, this is a really nice little accent. I like the orange volume and power keys, so that is just a classy little touch. And yeah, that is the hardware. It is big, it is angular, and it digs into your skin if you hold it like this. I like to hold it from the mid-frame. It's more comfortable with me that way. My fingers barely reach across it to begin with, so I have to find a pretty central position to hold it. But yeah, if you tend to hold your phone further down, then it'll be a little uncomfortable. Now, getting into the phone, this is some interesting hardware. So, the audio side of things, which gives it its namesake, is pretty solid. We're looking at about 125 milliwatts of power output, which doesn't sound like a lot, but even for something like the Arvis Acoustic Sierra, which I make, which is a very inefficient headphone, this isn't too bad. Okay, it drives it pretty loudly, so I have to push these up to past 50% pretty regularly on the balanced output. But on like 99% of headphones, like the Sennheiser HD600 or something like a HiFiMan Aria, or even any in-ear monitors, although you have to be careful of noise in some cases, but in-ear monitors and whatnot, you should have no issue getting the volume and sounding great. This is a pretty solid set of audio hardware. The only issue though is that while you're charging it and while you're using the device and have sensitive in-ear earphones plugged in, you might run into some hissing, some high noise floor issues. So just be aware of that. Try to avoid that by not using the phone while listening to music with very sensitive earphones plugged in and the power charging or turning on airplane mode. In that situation, if it's loud enough to bother. which it might not be, but it's there, it exists, just like in other dongles like this one I have here. You know, it's kind of the same issue in all of these. But yeah, you know, overall, probably not as good as a pure digital audio player at this price range. Some of those can go over half a watt and have lower noise floor, so, you know, if you need one of those, then you need one of those. You know, the smartphone probably isn't for you. But otherwise, it's good enough audio hardware, and there's a whole smartphone attached to it, and this right here is leagues ahead any cheap digital audio player in terms of snappiness, in terms of usability, in terms of performance. This is using a MediaTek Dimensity 7050. It has an in-display fingerprint scanner, nice and snappy. 256 gigabytes of pretty fast storage and 12 gigabytes of RAM. Everything runs nice and snappy. I'm able to multitask and get into Spotify and load up whatever I need to almost instantly, which is the bare minimum for smartphones these days, but in the DApp space, we've been kind of starved for a little while. So this is nice and refreshing. The camera hardware, I actually have Google's Gcam installed here. It works much better than the stock app. We're talking 64 megapixel Sony hardware here. It's not too bad of a sensor. If you give it some processing, you can get some decent details out of this thing. You know, it's not bad, but Moondrop needs to put in at least some amount of time to tune it properly. That's kind of my only comment for them there. So the stock camera app is fairly simple. It's kind of just like every other Chinese smartphone camera app these days. The 64 megapixel mode is useless, and the ultra wide 8 megapixel camera is very poor. There's almost no detail coming out of this thing. It's hard to tell from the camera, but it's kind of just this smeary mess. So don't use it. Moondrop should have omitted it entirely, in my opinion. But yeah, that aside, you know, it works. It's fine. It's as good as any cheapo smartphone on the market. It's comparable to something like a Nothing Phone 2a, if a little bit less in performance to the older chipset. But it's that class of hardware, and that price range is a little inflated because of audiophile tax, but yeah, it's not too bad. Cell services, by the way, in the United States using T-Mobile has been solid all around, at least in the cities. Out in the countryside, a little spotty, but generally speaking, not too bad of an experience for a Chinese phone for the first attempt by Moondrop. And yeah, that's kind of all I have to say about this. Solid device, solid product, and solid price point. Yeah, and using this as a daily device, so I dailyed this smartphone for about a month in June. I had no issues getting tap to pay to work. You know, disclaimer, they're definitely not going to be keeping up to date on security patches for this phone, so do not use it with any sensitive information. But I was using it because I'm me. And yeah, you know, the cameras for a little point and shoot experience were fine. Earlier, before the most recent update, I was getting some like 2-second, 3-second lag, which was unacceptable. But now the shutter lag is run under half a second, which is fine. You know, so I'm able to use it as a camera. I'm able to use it for my purchases and content consumption, which is what I wanted this thing for, aside from work. You know, watching YouTube with headphones on, wired headphones, not having to worry about dongles. It's all there. It all works fine. And when I want to demo my headphones out to someone, I can just give them something with a nice big display, lock it over to Spotify, and just let them go wild with it, and they have no issues. And everything works nice and seamlessly. It's a stylish kind of phone. I think it's cool. So yeah, overall, pretty cool. You know, ranking is good. That's it. So yeah, thanks for watching. This has been Moondrop's phone on the Juan phone, because this is my phone. If you want to support me at all, please buy the Arbus Acoustic Sierra. You know, so that's my plug for the channel. Moondrop is solid. You can buy these on Shenzhen Audio and from Hi-Fi Go. I got mine off Hi-Fi Go.